Hello here, and welcome to another edition of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sitter, Robin Wash, as we get ready to head out to lovely East Lansing, Michigan. It's be my fourth trip there covering the Huskers. Yeah, did you go in '95?
Yes.
The 11 a.m. game where Bob Devaney addressed the team before the game.
I don't remember that. That was that when we got back and Lawrence Phillips was an issue? Yeah. That's the first time I ever ate at Cracker Barrel. It's the first time I've ever eaten at Cracker Barrel. And I had the fried chicken, and I'll never forget it.
You thought it just changed your life.
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever eaten at Cracker Barrel.
In '95, it was a big game for Devaney. He was from Saginaw, Michigan.
Oh, really?
He coached at Michigan State before Wyoming and Nebraska, so he had connections there. And so for him to be out there for that game was kind of one of the last public moments he had with the team in '95. Sure.
Yeah, that was Lawrence really ran well in that game. Lawrence Phillips, and then came back and there were issues.
There won't be a lot of Lawrence Phillips type runs in this stadium on Saturday.
No, there's no Lawrence Phillips out there. Now, I'll do respect to all the Johnson backs, but I mean Lawrence was Lawrence. And that's when you saw the thought was, okay, now he's a Heisman guy. This looks like a Heisman Trophy contender right off the bat. That was Nick Saban team. That was Nick Saban coach.
Well, yeah. Then we go out there in 2012. Jamal Turner scored to win the game at the end, and
late.
It was a back and forth slug fight. In 2014, Bo Pelini lost out there to a good Michigan State team. I mean, then obviously the 2021 game was the disaster of Daniel Cherney with a punt that got shanked. So,
I don't know if he shanked it.
He just kicked it straight down the pipe.
He didn't shank that. He just missed his mark by 30 yards.
He rolled out right, and the punt went left.
Shank. Yeah. He hit it pretty good, actually. Just hit it the wrong way.
Kicked it to where none of his coverage team was.
Yeah, God, you guys remember it. I mean, I'll never forget it. I forget a lot. I've told you guys, I forget a lot of games that I was even at, but I'll never forget that moment because I couldn't believe it. Like he missed his mark by 30 yards, and the guy had a clean shot to the end zone. Unbelievable.
One Ross Ells was the special teams coordinator for that team. I believe he's still there.
Yeah.
So TJ Hollowell's there. Ted Gilmore's there. There's some definite Nebraska flavor on the staff, and
there is.
What a situation they're walking into though. Michigan State's lost 6 in a row. They have not won since Mel Tucker's been fired, and it kind of goes with the theme of what the schedule has been down the stretch. I mean, after Illinois, you think about Northwestern, interim head coach. You think about Purdue, first-year coach, kind of trying to figure things out. This week, interim head coach. Next week, Kevin Sumlin's offensive coordinator. I'm sorry, Maryland's offensive coordinator, Kevin Sumlin, is suspended after getting a DUI, and the Terrapins are probably going to come in, losers of 4 in a row. Wisconsin's lost their quarterback and the running back for the year, and then Iowa with their coordinator situation this week. So there's been so many breaks for Nebraska, and they've got to capitalize on it this week.
Breaks, but you could also credit Nebraska for holding together. I mean,
correct.
No DWIs, no craziness.
Well, they had a DUI.
Yeah, they did.
To start the year.
But that was August.
That was Big Ten Media Day.
They got all their drama out of the way.
They had a guy break into a vape shop. I mean,
there's been some drama.
I mean, there's
now that you mention it,
there's been a couple situations.
Yeah. Listen, in a big organization, things are going to happen with people. I mean, it's how you handle it.
Deal with 200 people.
Yeah,
odds are something's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully with 5, we should be okay.
But just
here today.
You just think about
for the next hour and a half.
Yeah, just keep things together, Abby.
You think about just what Saturday was for Nebraska, the win over Purdue, 31-14.
Yeah.
It was their first 3-game win streak as a program since 2016. They previously had 8 opportunities to do it since 2016. It was the first time Nebraska has gone undefeated in the month of October. And this one kind of knocked me back a couple steps since 2001. Think about that. Think how much life has moved since 2001.
Yeah, first undefeated October since Frank was here.
You didn't even have a cell phone in 01, Sipple, probably.
I think I had a Cricket.
You got the Cricket cell phone line in 01?
I don't know. I don't remember, to be honest.
I did.
My first phone was a Cricket. I know that. I know that.
Cricket wire. I remember in like if you like left Lincoln, it didn't work.
It didn't work.
It was like a track.
I didn't
phone.
want it to work. I wish I had a Cricket now. Actually,
Are they still in business?
or I just wish I didn't have a phone. I anyway. Yeah, where were we going with that?
Just the month of October and how big it was for this program, and now
huge for the program.
Now they're sniffing a bowl game.
Yeah, and in the
hunt for the West,
really in the hunt.
And it's a rare territory. When was the last time Nebraska at this stage going into November was the favorite? I mean, they're going to be favored. They are favored going to Michigan State. Probably going to be favored at least a couple more times before all said and done. So this is a situation that many players on this roster have not experienced.
Who has experienced?
At least guys have transferred.
Yeah.
That at other schools.
Right.
Guys that came here and have spent their entire career at Nebraska have never experienced this.
Isn't that something?
They've always been basically out of it or fighting for their lives at this point of the season. Now there are expectations. There's optimism. This is new territory that for the first time in a long time, guys are going to have to deal with the other side of being the hunted as opposed to the hunter.
There are sort of expectations. They're not crazy expectations.
Sure, there's expectations.
Yeah.
Go to a bowl.
Yeah.
Compete for the Big Ten West. It's all right there in front of you.
I don't know.
It's all right there.
Expects them to compete for the Big Ten West, but yeah,
to compete,
they're favored.
I think they're expected to compete.
Yeah, to compete.
They're tied for first place.
Yeah, to compete. But nobody's saying, hey, if they don't win the West, they're a failure.
Yeah.
I mean, but you would say they're favored against Michigan State. That's expectation.
I would say they'll be favored against Iowa, and I think
Maryland.
I think the Maryland game is going to be a slight edge.
The home field edge.
They're going to go out to Wisconsin probably as 7 points at least.
Ooh.
At least 7.
Really?
Dog.
Really?
Well, you think more than that?
Less.
You were okay. Well, I mean, Wisconsin held Ohio State. It was only a 14-point win for Ohio State.
Yeah, we're splitting hairs here. I thought more like a 3 or 4.
Can we agree though that the Wisconsin game is far and away the toughest remaining game of the 4?
Yes.
Right now, yes.
And is this the most favorable of the 4?
Yes.
I want to say
or Maryland.
The home field games are more.
I don't know, man. This Spartan team is a mess. They've been outscored 76-12 over their last 2 games. They haven't just lost 6 in a row. They've been humiliated.
Yeah, it's bad.
Over the past 2 games.
That's bad.
They've got a lot of issues. They don't know who's starting at quarterback this week. They might be throwing a true freshman out there. They have no passing game whatsoever.
They don't know who their quarterback's going to be.
No, it's a competition right now. During their press conference today, they said that they have not made a decision on their start.
It's a good thing one guy's research for the show today.
Well, I was writing. Yeah. So they don't know who their quarterback's going to be.
Well, they're not saying it publicly if they do.
Huh. Interesting.
Well, and you think about for the defense, I mean, I think Michigan State at home, senior day, they'll come out with a charge. And I think Nebraska's just got to survive this opening charge and make some plays. They sure as heck can't fumble opening kickoffs or punts
or go
or interceptions
or have 5 turnovers on the road, and lose 4 of them. No, you can't do that. They got to get that under control for sure.
Will Michigan State hit as hard? I mean, Purdue hit Nebraska as hard as any team all year.
Oh, this is Big Ten. This is the big Northwestern hit Nebraska too. I mean, Northwestern was banging
just
too.
Expected at this point.
This is the Big Ten. Yeah. Oh, it's not gonna. I do not think this will be easy.
No,
I do not. And not with Nebraska's offense.
Well, the spread's only like 3.
But here's the thing: we were wrong. I was wrong about Purdue. And Nebraska won easily. I mean, I was wrong about that. I mean, I got to come clean. Like I just say, oh, I don't think they can beat Michigan State easily because of that offense. Well, that offense just beat Purdue easily, so.
And Rule had that team prepared to play in the weather. That's the key. And here we are on Halloween, and it's brutal outside.
Hey.
They were outside practice. I mean, give Rule credit. He's not putting him inside the controlled lab with the garage doors closed and warm.
He never does.
He puts them out there.
And he never does.
Day one.
I think they play. I mean, they respond to it well because they do it daily. We've had a lot of coaches that we've covered here that on a day like today, they want to get a good practice in. So they'll close the garage doors and they'll practice in the 75-degree facility.
Yeah. I mean, even in the springtime, remember, Rule would have them outside all the time. And it gets wicked in the spring at times. There were some wicked days. I remember a Saturday where they scrimmaged and it was wicked
we were
cold.
bundled up in like winter clothes.
Yeah. So no, they're always in,
and I think
they're always out.
This kind of goes to your point too. It's not just making sure his team's acclimated to the weather. I think it's about fully embracing the winning ugly narrative, to where like they don't care about style points.
Right.
They want to make sure that they're ready to play in wind, rain, sleet, snow, all that sort of stuff. And that not a lot of coaches buy into that the way Nebraska has.
All right, when we come back, we'll get into the offensive storylines heading out to East Lansing. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washut, as we get you ready for Saturday's 11 a.m. game in East Lansing between Nebraska and Michigan State. This segment of the Husker Online Show brought to you by CHI and MyProviderMatch.com. I love my provider at CHI Health Clinic. Go see Dr. Johnson over there. It's Dr. Evans. Did you know that CHI Health has created an online quiz to match you with providers that match your personality? It's that easy. Go to MyProviderMatch.com, answer a few questions, and be matched with a provider who understands your health goals, including primary care and women's health providers, pediatricians, and cardiologists. I was just in there last week, ran into former Husker Tyler Evans, former receiver. He's a dermatologist over there doing great work. And just every time I've gone over there, it's been a great experience there on 40th in Yankee Hill Road. So if you're having someone that you can turn to no matter what for your health, it makes a big difference in your health. That's why CHI Health's Provider Match is a great thing to look into to find the right provider to fit your personality. Thanks again to CHI Health for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. All right, let's get in to the offense here. Haarberg, I mean, how concerned are you guys with the beating he's taken? I mean, he took more hits than we've seen a quarterback take in the run game in quite a while in Nebraska Saturday.
Yeah, what did Rule say on Monday?
He's got to learn how to get down.
And he said, he was asked how he is physically, and he's just a little beat up.
I like what didn't he say he's the quarterback at Nebraska?
Yeah, he said that at the end of a long quote about it. How concerned am I about Heinrich? He seems okay.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big dude. I mean, he dishes out punishment too. It's an interesting discussion with him and this whole notion of sliding and getting down. You saw a few runs where he didn't really have room to get down, and he's big. He's so big, it's harder for him to slide than it is for like a 5'11", 195-pound shortstop.
Mm-hmm.
He's 6'5", 220.
Yeah, the runs aren't a concern to me. It's the shots he's taking as a passer. That's the problem. The fact that he's putting himself in harm's way by not getting rid of the football. And I think that's kind of what Matt Rule was really hitting on, is he used the
your own dang fault.
Sometimes you got to skip a rock and move on to the next play. And he doesn't do that enough. He holds on to the ball too long. And that big hit that he took where he had to leave the game, he was bleeding from the mouth, where the Purdue linebacker smoked him. That was a play where he said he didn't even see the guy. He said that guy may as well come off the sideline during that play because I didn't see him. So that it's not just decision making. He's just got to have better vision, have a better awareness and pocket presence to be able to feel those types of hits coming before they're level them out in the middle of the field.
Well, and I had a lot of people email. I had 2 emails actually about fans disappointed in the decision to have Haarberg run it after he had took that big shot. Then the fumble followed that play. Just, the awareness of the coaches of that situation. Like, hey, your quarterback literally just got destroyed.
Yeah, that's fair.
And his bell was rung, probably.
Handed off.
And you put him in a run play again, which led to a fumble. So that was kind of a questionable call in that situation. But I want to get on Jeff Sims now because he's really played 5 snaps since he's been benched. One was a sack when Haarberg lost his helmet. And then Saturday, the play came in wrong on a 4th down. He played 4 snaps Saturday. Play comes in wrong, and they are going for this 4th down play.
4th and 1.
And, the whole execution of the whole play was off. And then Sims fumbles it, and they return it for a touchdown.
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate. I don't know if
it's not on him.
It doesn't really change my opinion of him. It just happened, and you move on. My whole viewpoint of the quarterback position is they're in pretty good shape right now because Purdy's back in the fold,
and he looks good.
And what I've heard is he can run the option at a pretty high level. I mean, so you can get down past Sims and be okay. And I think Sims would ultimately be okay. So keep hammering away with Heinrich, and it's working. What they're doing is, I mean, you'd have to say it's working, right?
So
right,
I would.
You
say the quarterback situation is pretty good. I'd say it's good enough because they can win with what they're doing.
Yeah,
they've shown that.
Okay,
but the ceiling of what they have at that position is pretty low. Like, they're not stretching the field unless it comes off an option pass. Like, there's no threat of a consistent downfield passing game unless it's coming off play action. They're getting 8-9 guys up in the box. And so that is where I'm going to stop it before going to that they're in a pretty good spot. Because right now, I mean, Jeff Sims wasn't throwing the ball well.
Good enough.
Heinrich's not throwing the ball well.
No, good enough.
But what they have is enough to win. With the way that defense is playing, they're making enough plays through the air. The quarterback run game is being, it's kind of the staple of their offense right now. And I think that's fine. For what this season is, you can keep rolling with that, but it's got to get better down the road.
We have to be fair to the offense. I mean, yeah, this is a defense team. We know that. But it leads the Big Ten in rushing.
Because they don't throw the ball.
I'm trying to give the
at least they're doing something.
I'm trying to give the offensive line some credit
again,
here.
but that's what they want. That's what they have to be for the personnel and the injuries that they're dealing with. They have to be a run-oriented team to control the ball, take some of the pressure off their defense, and wear down teams to where they can win in the fourth quarter. And they've been doing that for the most part, most of the season.
Yeah, I give them credit for leading the Big Ten in rushing and ranking second against the run. And those are real, raw stats.
That's how you win in this fight.
We can't do this thing where we continually diminish everything they're doing. I mean, they're doing some things right. I mean,
they're 5-3 for a reason.
Right.
I give them credit because they've literally just rebuilt the whole house in the middle of the season. I mean,
seriously,
kind of did.
I mean, you think about like what they thought they were going to be and what they are now. I mean, it's like they built this kitchen and they're like, we can't use this kitchen anymore. We got to rebuild the whole kitchen.
Something happened to the pipes,
and so like they've had to figure out a way to cook in this kitchen.
Right.
I'm going on one of my analogies.
I love it.
Go.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Just keep going.
They're not making the best meals, but they're making good enough meals.
Yeah, they lost. I mean, the biggest loss to me is Irvin and Ramir Johnson.
Well, Billy Kemp
and Marcus Washington.
Should we just go through Xavier Betts
and Isaiah Garcia Castaneda? But the pounding running game, that was Irvin. I mean, that was going to be Gabe Irvin.
But they figured out something with these freshman receivers, at least. Like, hey, these guys run 10-4. How do we get that 10-4 into the game?
The belly option. That's how it's been. Now teams are gonna they're gonna watch that close now. I'll be interested to see what the adjustment is.
They bore you with some of those plays, and then boom.
Yeah,
they
the
come
belly
out
option's a beauty. I mean, both those guys, Malachi Coleman and Jalen Lloyd, were running wide open. I mean, that thing worked to perfection.
They're going to beat a lot of defenders one-on-one just with that speed alone.
Yeah, and then with drawing the safety up or wherever that belly option's doing, man. I mean, those guys were running wide open. A lot speed and play design are the reasons.
All right, when we come back, we're going to shift the discussion over to Tony White's black shirt defense. They continue to play at a high level. They held Purdue to under 200 yards Saturday. We'll hit on that and more. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washup, talking defensive storylines for Nebraska as they head out to Michigan State for an 11 a.m. game. But before we get to that, this segment of the show brought to you by Caldera Lab. Steve Sipple is slowly but surely turning the table with Caldera Lab as we've built it up to him all season long. But it's a great product. Use it every morning. Use it this morning before I came into football stuff. And it takes 30 seconds and it makes your face feel fresh. Your skin feels great. You're taking care of yourself. 94% of men that have used Caldera Lab have shown improvement with their skin. And that's the key. You want to take care of your face. A place like Nebraska, it's sunny, it's windy. The weather can be hard on your face. This is a great product to use to help you look good. So when you head back, Steve Sipple, to that 40-year Columbus reunion, are you at the 40 year?
I don't know. I'm 57.
When you head back to the reunion, you can say, wait a minute, is that Sipple's brother or is that Sipple?
Wait a second. They're the same age as me almost. One's a year younger and one's a year older. My God, Sean.
Adam's gonna be like, Adam's only 1 year younger than
me. Yeah, he's 1 year younger than me, Sean.
See, he uses Caldera Lab.
Okay, Bradley Cooper.
All right. Well, once again, check out calderalab.com. Use promo code Husker to get 20% off. We got a great special again at calderalab.com. Promo code Husker. Thanks again to Caldera Lab for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, let's get into the defense because for Nebraska, that has been the story. And, they continue to tackle at a high level. They force turnovers at a high level this past week, as high of a level as we've seen all season. The pass rush guys are coming. The young players are playing well. I mean, it's all coming together here in this final month for Tony White.
How many yards did Purdue get? 195.
First time all year they've been held under 200 yards.
Okay, they got 195, and Matt Rule went in front of the media yesterday and said it wasn't as good as we thought. That's got to be motivational. I mean, come on. You held them to 195. There couldn't have been too much wrong in that game, right? Which I appreciate him doing this because you got to keep the guys motivated. I mean, tell them that it wasn't good enough and then hold Michigan State to 175, So, they're playing really well. It goes without saying. I mean, they're number 5 in the country in rush defense. They're number 13th overall total defense. 5 rushing defense, number 13 in total defense. This is what we've been begging for years, man. I mean, think about going back to the Riley era when they were allowing 4.9 yards per carry. No, let me stop. It got over 5. They're allowing 5+ yards a carry. Now they're allowing 2.7 in that area. So this is what you wanted. And here it is.
Yeah, I mean, the whole message basically since the beginning of the year is we need to become a defensive team. Well, they are that and then some with the way that they're playing right now. And I think what Rule was talking about probably had more to do with some of the plays that the wind especially impacted on Purdue.
Yeah.
Like Tommy Hill's interception. Rule basically made it out that he got beat and the wind killed it, and Tommy was able to catch up and make the pick. And then there was another play going the other direction where they overthrew a guy that was wide open down the sideline. I can't remember if he beat Newsome or who it was, but Purdue missed some plays. I think that's what. So it's motivational, but I think it's also kind of a reality check that you guys were really good, but if that wind's not there, it's maybe a different story. So I think that's kind of what you got to do when a group's playing this well. You can't let them get comfortable.
I was surprised that Purdue was even taking shots down the field in that wind when they were throwing into the wind.
A whole bunch of shots.
Like that's just not even knowing the stadium you're in.
They threw it 11 times into the wind.
You could have Josh Allen and have a hard time making those throws because I mean, they were beat and the ball knocked down 10 yards.
Yeah, I think they threw it 11 times was it the second quarter they were going into the wind? They threw it 11 times in the second quarter. Very odd way to do it, Graham Harrell.
Did you hear Ed Foley say about the wind in the stadium and Brian Buschini today? Ed Foley said when the ball gets above the crossbars, the wind really changes.
It's a complicated wind pattern in that stadium. It really is. Bill Bush talked about it all the time. It's almost like a study. I mean, opponents won't understand it. It does give Nebraska an advantage. It does.
A former punter here, Grant Schumacher, told me that there was a study done that it's the windiest and hardest stadium in all of football to kick in.
Really?
Because I think it's because the way the wind changes directions. Yeah, it swirls within the stadium. It comes and so you can't just say, well, the wind's going east or it's going west. Like could go east, and then as you're kicking it shifts and starts going southwest.
Now, when the new construction gets done and they build the south up, what will that do to the wind?
I don't know.
Because will that block that warm south wind that comes in on those warm days? But on a cold day, you saw a north wind like we saw Saturday. So it is tricky. And Buschini said during pregame, the opposing punters, especially Saturday, come up to him and was like, man, is it always this hard and windy to kick in the stadium? He's like, yep.
Yeah, a lot of times it is.
So it is definitely something to
physics,
watch.
Sean. You got to know your physics.
Okay, something to watch this week as we continue defensive storylines. Marquise Buford. Will we see him make his 2023 debut after going down a year ago? I believe it was in the Michigan game a year ago. He went down with that injury.
It was Wisconsin.
Wisconsin game. Okay, Wisconsin game a year ago. Will we see Buford back out there for the Huskers on Saturday?
It's no small development. I mean, he's a starter. Now, I don't know if he'd be a starter right away, but he's one of their very best defenders. definitely one of their best players in the secondary, has a ton of starting experience and is good. He's a dude. I mean, he's a program guy, and he's value. I mean, that would be a valuable addition. And when you're adding guys like that late, it can be really valuable.
Absolutely. I think Rule kind of pumped the brakes on that a little bit,
Yep.
saying that he's practicing. He got first team reps last week,
Mhm.
even with the defense, but every day afterwards he was really sore.
Yeah.
So I think that the goal for this week is, can he put together consecutive days without feeling it as much as he did the day after, and being able to stay healthy consistently over multiple days of action.
Yeah, and when he's healthy though, he is their best DB.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no doubt. I mean,
best safety for sure.
Like, imagine a healthy him and a healthy Singleton and Omar. I mean, all of a sudden, if they get all these guys back and they get Billy Kemp back,
they could get. You guys have mentioned Singleton.
Yeah, I think he's close.
Yeah. Really? He wasn't ruled out for the year. They left that door open.
Whew.
So they could get him back. They can get Buford. Kemp, you wonder if Kemp can be back by Wisconsin.
That'd be big. God, this is going to get interesting, fellas.
Mm-hmm.
And as the stakes rise, all of a sudden, if they're in the West race,
they're in the West race.
If they can
Sean,
if they win the next 2 weeks, all of a sudden you get Kemp back at Wisconsin. That makes a big difference.
Yeah, they're in it. I mean, there's pressure though. Now there is pressure to win.
Mm-hmm.
There really is. Rob, you were kind of right.
But the depth that they're playing with on defense is the key, because we've seen defenses with good players at Nebraska, but they would have to play like Garrett Nelson 80 snaps.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I mean, Colton Feast played like 70 snaps in Ireland.
More depth right now.
I mean, they're not having to do that. Well, nobody other than the DBs, and DBs universally always play a lot of snaps, but your front seven guys are the heavier guys, and they're rotating those guys out at as good of a rotational pace. And Robin and I do the snap counts every week that we've ever seen since we've been doing the snap counts.
Really? That you've ever seen?
Yeah, especially on the defensive line. Like the number of bodies, they're still playing. Like early in the year, you can get, but even they've carried it on through the 8 games already, and they're playing a significant rotation up front. And they've kind of pared it down a little bit more on the back end, I think, just kind of by numbers with the secondary. But here's the other part of it. They're not just rotating a lot more. They're playing less snaps because of the way the offense is playing. They're shortening the game. And so under Scott Frost and that offense, the defense was out there for 80 plus snaps some games. Now they're playing 60. That makes a difference when you're playing 20 less snaps per game over the course of a season and rotating at that level. These guys, the frontline guys, are probably as fresh as Nebraska defense has been in a long time.
It almost feels like they have a head coach with a grand plan, right?
What?
Yeah, odd. Like a head coach.
Are you allowed to do that?
Formulated an identity for his program, actually enacting it. Huh. I'll be damned.
In an identity that doesn't necessarily fit the agenda of what he wants it to do. He's doing it to make it work.
I mean, he wants to run it, Sean.
Okay, but I think this offense will evolve.
Yeah.
But he knows where they're at.
But I think that even as it evolves, he wants to be a body blow offense. Pound, recruit big running backs, pound it. I don't think he'll stray too much from that. More play action, probably less option going forward, right?
I throw the ball more than 11 times in a game.
Yeah. Now that was a lot because they got up 21-0 earlier in the third. So you sit on it at that point, largely, right? It was early in the third. They're up 21-0.
All right, when we come back, Abby Barmore will join us. We'll take your questions here in the mailbag. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Watch, Abby Barmore joining the show here as we take your questions in the mailbag. But before we get to that, this segment of the show brought to you by Bauer Underground. They're helping shape Nebraska's infrastructure future, and they're looking for new members to join the team with open positions for laborers, equipment operators, aerial linemen, and foremen. Bauer Underground is searching for the best in construction. Visit BauerUnderground.com to learn more about career opportunities and industry-leading benefits, including competitive pay, employer-paid health insurance, dental, disability, vision, and life insurance, 401k match, new top-of-the-line equipment, and a clothing allowance. No experience in underground utility construction? No problem. Bauer will train the right people in the field, giving you the hands-on experience you need to build a long and rewarding career. Want to learn more? Visit Bauer Underground on Facebook to view testimonials from current Bauer teammates, hear about their experiences, their company culture, and the importance of their work. Bauer Underground is family owned with crews and work sites across Nebraska. Wherever you live, Bauer has an opportunity for you. For more information, like Bauer Underground on Facebook or visit BauerUnderground.com. Come start your new career today. Thanks again to Bauer Underground for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, Abby, where are we starting off at?
Okay, our first one. Which of Nebraska's next 4 games do you see as the most difficult to win?
I think Wisconsin on the road. Nebraska's never won in Madison ever since they've joined the Big Ten. In 2016, the last time they went to a bowl game, they probably could have and should have won that game. Westerkamp was interfered with by Watt. They didn't call it, and Wisconsin was able to win controversially in overtime. But they've never won in Madison. In fact, they've really only played well in Madison that game. I mean, every other game has been fairly one-sided.
Yeah, they had a shot the last time there when they threw the bets late.
Oh, yeah,
right?
duh. That's another one. I forgot about that game.
They had a shot.
The 2021 season.
Yeah, the 2021. They didn't play great. And the big running back got loose. Averaged 10 yards a carry and ran for 200. But Nebraska hung in there, right? He did. I think he got 200 and he averaged 10 yards a carry.
That guy blew that call.
Braylon Allen. Okay, now you're going back to the
bets the bets passing. They didn't call interference.
You think it was interference?
Both losses there, Nebraska could have won, were no call PIs. And the one on bets was a pure tackle.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't think either Rob or I would push back on that. It's the toughest game.
I think that's going to be probably the last game they're underdogs in at this point.
How about that?
I still think Maryland will be a really close line. Maryland has a lot of talent.
A lot of skill talent. They're not running the ball well,
but their D line guys are big.
They're struggling right
now. They have very good receivers. They have the kind of receivers that I like. They have a bunch of thoroughbreds, 6'1", 6'2", 6'3" guys out there, but they are not running the ball well.
And you want it to be a cold, windy day for that game.
Yes, you do. Yeah,
make the quarterback from Hawaii play in that.
Yeah, Talia. And I'll tell you something. Though I was reading message boards. Isn't his name Talia Tagovailoa?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I was reading their message boards. The people calling for his job in the fan base.
Woof.
Hello.
He's not a bad coach.
But
they lost to Northwestern though.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
All right. Next question.
Okay. Patrick Meyer on Twitter said it seems that previous Nebraska coaches are either good at recruiting or coaching, but never both. Is this finally the staff that can do both?
I mean, there's so many variables that come into play there. Schedule matters. I mean, Nebraska's had good coaches, but maybe they've played a really difficult schedule, and they've had guys that have still recruited well. I mean, it's such a complicated thing but I do think Rule has the traits where they're going to be good at both things because Rule cares about every aspect of this program.
Yeah, and this staff's approach to recruiting is so much different than previous staffs too, where, say, the last 2 staffs in particular kind of stargazed a little bit, and they were going after the biggest names, the highest profile recruits, and then they either wouldn't get them or they'd get them here and they'd be gone in a year. So they're going after maybe a less heralded type of athletes, but ones that they can see down the road how they're going to develop. That's why you're seeing all these position changes. And so the evaluation goes beyond just scouting them at the high school level. They're scouting them once they get them on campus. It's that I think that long-term vision of how they evaluate players is different than probably the last handful of coaching staffs Nebraska's had here.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you got next, Abby?
What are the most realistic bowl games Nebraska could either draw with 6 wins or with a Big Ten championship appearance?
I think the highest bowl would probably be Nashville or maybe Tampa, but Tampa is like a rotational bowl now. I believe the ACC and the Big Ten flip on that one. And all the projections you see don't have the Big Ten going to Tampa this year. So I don't know how that Tampa.
What if Nebraska wins out?
Well, if they went out and they go to Indy, I would say Nashville, Tampa.
Okay.
A lot of it too is will Penn State or of the big 3, will all 3 get in the New Year's 6,
right,
or only 2 get in the New Year's 6?
Right.
Because if all 3 get in, then everybody moves up.
Right.
I mean, then you could go as high as Orlando or somewhere like Tampa. But I feel like Vegas and Phoenix make a lot of sense. I've seen some with Detroit, and that doesn't make any sense to me.
Why is that?
Because I don't see how Nebraska would fall down to that bowl game.
No.
If there's a pack of 6 and 7 win teams, Nebraska will
draw
be
for Nebraska on a 6-year bowl drought. They will sell out the stadium, especially if it's in Arizona
Nashville,
or
Phoenix.
Vegas or Nashville. I mean, it will be a tremendous draw, maybe the biggest draw of any non-New Year's Six bowl. I don't think that's a stretch to say that. So to think that other teams are going to pass up Nebraska, even at 6 wins, if Nebraska's there to take, bowl committees are going to take them.
All right, Sean, you were saying 6 or 7. What would the bowl be, do you think? If
Phoenix or Vegas.
Phoenix or Vegas, all right.
You know, the pinstripes in play too, but everyone just logically thinks the
Rutgers.
pinstripe will take Rutgers. I mean, why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Rutgers hasn't played in that game in a long time. They'd fill the stadium. The
Oh,
New York media would be engaged and cover the game. I mean, it just makes too much sense.
Yeah, unless Rutgers won 8.
Yeah, if Rutgers wins up more.
Right.
But
But 6 or 7, you think Rutgers is going to the Pinstripe Bowl?
they're already at 6.
Okay. Well, if they stay at 6.
Yeah.
If they win, but 8 might push them out of there, which could push Nebraska to the Pinstripe Bowl.
Yeah. It's not that though. Like it's a weird. It's they find best fits. It's not like necessarily a pecking order, other than the
Mhm.
Capital One Bowl.
That's where
always-
Nebraska's going to get the edge, I think.
it's not even
Over. It keep them
The
so what
TV
you're saying is
draw,
it
the
keep 'em
ticket
out of the
sale
pin-
draw, like
Keep them out of the Pinstripe Bowl is what I'm
Yes.
suggesting.
They're-
That would
or
be great.
Detroit.
yes.
Nashville would be a home run.
Yeah.
I mean, because a lot of folks would just drive.
That's a fun bowl.
That's fun.
And the Media Hotel is on Broadway Street.
Yeah,
Yes,
we've
it
been
is.
there and it's fun.
Yeah.
The Nashville fried chicken's fun. It's fun.
Broadway.
chicken.
Hot chicken.
Greg, our video producer, was literally sweating. Like he got like he took it up a little too hot with his hot chicken,
Yeah.
and it was.
It's real. And it's really
Dripping.
tasty. It's like legit.
I was a wuss and just got like the regular mild, like not like basically like Popeyes level mild.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Don't need to be sweating.
No.
All right, Abby.
Not with all
Final
that facial cream.
my Caldera Lab will just rub right on.
That's right.
Final question.
Okay. What restaurants do you guys recommend for Husker fans that are traveling to East Lansing this weekend?
Ooh, there's a good
We've
question.
gotten a lot of questions about that on the board, so this will be good.
Okay, so Robin and I, this will be our 4th tour of duty in East Lansing, and we've had some memorable moments in East Lansing over the years.
Yes.
I've seen a lot
This
of
is your 4th or 5th?
4th.
4th. Okay.
We weren't there in '95 with you.
okay.
No,
We were still in high school.
I was 12.
I was in high school in '95, but Crunchies is kind of like this staple right in East Lansing. They're known, if you have a party of 4, they will serve you a painter's bucket of beer,
A literal bucket.
like a 3-gallon bucket, and Labatt's Blue and Miller Lite. And
Yeah,
maybe-
those are the only 2 options they had was Miller Lite and Labatt Blue.
and Labatt's Blue in East Lansing is like the most popular domestic beer up there.
It's like their Coors.
It's like Bud or cool. I mean, that's a big. But you get these Detroit style pizzas, just good old cheap college bar food fun. It's a good place. We've always had a good time there. Tons of beers on tap. Trying to think. Oh, Harper's is like
that's like nightclub.
it's.
Yeah, I've been there. It's too loud.
I've seen
Too loud.
Harper's like
Yeah.
where it's been
Can I say
fully
that?
taken over by Nebraska fans.
Yeah.
And I've seen Harper's where Robin and I were the oldest people in there.
Yeah.
So like
Last time we were there.
I did a lunch at Harper's. I did lunch at Harper's and I thought it was too loud.
Harper's
At
is
lunch.
But when we were there, when it was like 500 Nebraska fans in there, it was a lot of fun. But it turns into like the main Michigan State bar.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
but
they got a DJ and it's like a nightclub.
I know where to steer clear of.
Right up your alleys.
but we have a steakhouse on the scouting report this year, Robin.
Yeah, it looks phenomenal on the website. Bowdy's, Bowdies, Bowdy's Chop House.
We can walk from the hotel, so that's a
Yes.
bonus.
And that's in Lansing, though, right?
yeah, we're
Not
by the
East
Capitol.
Lansing.
We're by the Capitol.
Yeah, so a little different there. Yeah, so we haven't done a lot beyond that in East Lansing, but it's a good time.
Yeah. that sounds
Basically, if
good.
you just hang around that downtown area, it's like O Street in Lincoln.
Yeah, and East Lansing, kind of like West Lafayette, it's its own kind of separate college district area,
Yes.
and then Lansing is kind of more like the traditional town. Just like when you go to Lafayette, there's a big difference between Lafayette and West Lafayette.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Bowdy sounds good.
Another bar that we went to was the Riv. I remember that. I'm just looking it up right now. A little smaller bar. If you don't want like the big nightclub scene of Harper's, walk down a couple blocks to the Riv.
And if you just want like a safe, like, hey, I want to watch college football bar, there is a Buffalo Wild Wings, like walking distance from the stadium.
Okay.
And we've gone in there and watched football before.
That sounds good. Wings always sound good to me.
I mean, I'm
Safe.
not like endorsing like Buffalo Wild Wings as the best, but if you just want to go watch
For the Steve Sipples of the world.
It's a safe
for the
choice.
simple sipples.
Hey, it's a safe choice.
You're going to get wings and football.
That's right.
So
Right.
You're right. You're right.
looking forward to it, guys.
Yeah, I am too. Big game too.
I'm ready for
11
a road
a.m.
trip.
kick.
Yeah, this is a huge game.
Yeah.
Just think,
I am thinking.
a couple days we could be writing about Nebraska's clinching a bowl berth.
I know.
We'll
Been a long time since we've written that.
I know.
All right. Well, we come back. We'll talk Big Ten storylines, including what's happening in Iowa City this week. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. Final segment here of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washhead. As we close the show, let's talk Big Ten. But before we get to that, Steve Sipple, this show brought to you by
Larson Motors, our friends at Larson Motors. If you're looking for a new vehicle, go for a new experience at Larson Motors in Nebraska City. Larson Motors is one of the Midwest's only dealerships with all the major brands in one location. Finding your new Chevrolet, GMC, Hummer, Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram has never been easier. Start your new experience today at LarsonMotorGroup.com, Larson with an O, or at Larson Motors in Nebraska City. Larson Motors, real people, real deals.
All right, let's get into Big Ten talk here. Let's fly through this last week's action. Indiana gave Penn State a scare in State College, 33-24 final. Northwestern shocks Maryland. 5-2 Maryland beats them 33-27. Northwestern out 4 wins. Maryland out 5-3. The Wildcats thinking bowl game. Minnesota takes out Michigan State 27-12. The leading rusher for the Spartans had just 52 yards. Their leading passer was at only 117. So this is not a high-powered offense. Nubbin, the running back. Did you guys see the stat line for Minnesota? He had 40 carries for 204 yards.
That's a Mo Ibrahim.
Minnesota's 2 TD drives in the second half consisted of 16 running plays and 0 passes. Wear them down.
And Tony White made that team throw 35 times in the second half. Think about that.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Nebraska, obviously 31-14 winners over Purdue. And then, Wisconsin played Ohio State very tough. The Buckeyes pulled away, though, 24-10. That was a 10-3 game at halftime. So, they made that game interesting. They limited the possessions. The weather was a factor. Allen only had 50 yards rushing. Henderson ran for 162. And McCord threw for 226 for the Buckeyes.
Allen injured, didn't play the second half. Braylon Allen didn't play the second half.
Another positive development for Nebraska if Allen is not up to 100% because they don't have much on that offense.
No, they already lost Ches Malusi, the backup running
Mordecai.
back. Yeah, but they've lost Tanner Mordecai, the quarterback, and now I don't know where Allen's health is right now.
All right, I want to get into next week, but let's start with Iowa because that situation. I mean, Sip, what was your take just on how it all came out? One of our former interns, David Eichold from Husker Online, is with Iowa 24/7. He broke the story this week in Iowa City, and I think it almost forced the hand of Iowa to make this announcement much earlier. Mm-hmm. I mean, almost kind of dampers the rest of the year for this 6-2 team right now, and they're announcing they're firing their offensive coordinator.
It's hard to know how it'll affect the program without being within those walls. There's a part of me that says this might help Iowa this week. Now, Iowa plays Northwest. Did you say Iowa plays Northwest
in Wrigley Field?
At Wrigley, it might rally the guys. You know, they might rally around Brian Ferentz. I just don't know what the locker room dynamic is. The timing of it is what everybody wonders about. And maybe you're right, Sean. Maybe the timing of it was forced by, a former coworker of yours. Look, the offense is terrible. And it's not just been terrible this year. It's been terrible really since 2021. Mm-hmm. And really, if you go back to 2017, I think you would say it's 98th nationally over that period. the last thing I'll say is, if you look over Kirk Ferentz's career, they've seldom been good on offense.
Mm-hmm.
They don't run the ball very well, despite their reputation. They haven't run it very well.
Well, they don't have running quarterbacks, so like the sack yardage always goes off the running totals.
But they don't run they run zone left, zone right, and if you're not, you better be firing off the line of scrimmage, and you better be completing some passes. If you're not, what do you get? Defenders just flying downhill at you all the time, and it's hard to run.
They've had good running backs, elite tight ends, and a really good offensive line. Like, that's what their offense has been for a long time.
Rob, not a real good offensive line all the time. They've had pockets.
They've had really good offensive line.
No,
in the last 3 or 4 years, it's slipped off.
That's really slipped off.
But you can't deny the first 15 years of Ferentz. The O-line play was good. They had Outland winners.
They've had individual
top
good
10
guys.
draft picks.
Yeah, individual
multiple
guys. Individuals.
I'm just saying.
No,
that's
you
pretty
look.
good.
I'm telling you, I've looked at this. You can look over 20 years. They're not a top 10 running team hardly ever.
But they don't play a style that puts up stats. They limit possessions. So when you only have 8 or 9 possessions in a game, you're
bad offensive program.
And they're putting running backs in the NFL too. So
bad offensive program.
Okay, fine. But that goes to the point, as far as the immediate deal, like, so before all this news broke, the over-under was like 29.5 for this week. Like, that's like a record.
Now it's up to 31.
Now it's 31.
It's
terrible.
terrible.
So they're buying in.
They're terrible.
Up to 31. So I don't know how much of a difference. Like, okay, they rally around Brian Ferentz. What?
True.
So what?
Right. They don't have much.
They still are the same limited offense
Right.
that's beat up. They don't throw the ball to their wide receivers. Their tight ends aren't nearly as good, and their offensive line is fallen off.
What do you think about their quarterback?
Bad.
He's bad.
Bad.
Yeah. So and if I was just sitting at O'Rourke's with Brian Ferentz, I'd say, how did it come to that's your backup quarterback? How did that even happen?
Well, they went all in financially on the transfer guy they brought,
McNamara.
Kid, I mean, they're
that's not a bad move.
Their portal, their collective paid big bucks to get Cade McNamara.
It was a huge deal.
Ferentz would say to me, hey, look, we brought in McNamara. We had Luke Lachey as a tight end.
Eric All from Michigan.
We're set up. We just got hurt. That's what he would say.
All right. Other games real quick. Nebraska, Michigan State, obviously 11 a.m. Ohio State at Rutgers. That's a CBS game at 11. Wisconsin at Indiana. Badgers are 9.5-point favorites on the road. Illinois at Minnesota. That's an intriguing game at 2:30. The Gophers are 2-point favorites. Iowa, as we talked about, is a 5-point favorite in Wrigley Field against Northwestern. That's going to be cool.
Yeah, really cool.
Penn State, Maryland. We'll be watching that game. And hey, guys, Maryland's only a 10-point dog to Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that gives you a snapshot of their talent. They have talent. Maryland does.
10-point dog at home, but your point remains.
And then Purdue on the road at Michigan is a 32.5-point favorite.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Or Michigan's a 32.5-point favorite. So,
yes.
Well, I think we'll all be watching the Iowa situation closely.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see how Maryland plays against Penn State. Illinois, Minnesota has my attention. Anything jump out to you guys?
Well, aren't you looking for these teams in the West like Minnesota to lose? You want Minnesota to lose. You want Wisconsin to lose.
But look who they're playing. I mean, every team in the division outside of every team in the division's favored. So this makes an already important game for Nebraska that much more important if you're seriously considering yourself a Big Ten West contender.
This big game.
All right. Should be a big weekend in East Lansing. And we will have HuskerOnline postgame live from East Lansing. Join us. We had over 20,000 viewers last week. We had a great, spirited, fun postgame live show. It's probably one of the most popular things we're doing as of late. And I don't think unless somebody sneaks in the press box, there will not be a postgame margarita sponsorship for Steve Sipple this week.
Probably not in the cards.
Not in the cards.
That's fine. We just got to work.
All right. We'll bring it and hopefully be on around 5:00 Central Time or
5,
give or take 5 Central with HuskerOnline postgame live. But looking forward to it. Make sure you check us out at HuskerOnline.com. We'll have full coverage this weekend from East Lansing.